Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Up today, we've got a software license site in the financial Forex niche making just over $2,000 a month in net profit. The listing number for this is 40191. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. Now, we've got the seller Ahmed with us today to go through the site and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on the show, Ahmed. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, man. So the site was built in March 2013, and the revenue is a little over $2,000 a month, so just under $2,100 a month. We've got expenses of about $120 a month, net profit at $2,000 a month. Can you tell me just briefly what the expenses are for?
Right, so the expenses first, it goes toward the email marketing software, which is called Aweber, which is around $50 to $49 a month. The other expense is ClickMeter, which essentially allows you to track and see the analytics behind all the traffic that's coming in from the email marketing, and that's around $20 a month. And then the rest of it is just domain name and hosting costs. So really it's just two of the main software costs, and the rest is just a regular website cost to maintain the site.
Cool, man. We actually started off with Aweber ourselves when we were just building our email list. How many email subscribers do you have?
It's around 2,600, a little more than that, probably a little less than 2,700, but around that number.
Cool, man. And then, we're going to get into all this. I had a note here that you added a recurring piece to this in February. Up until then, it's always been just a one-shot deal in terms of like software licenses. How's that recurring piece going? I mean, how much do you have in recurring right now?
Yeah, so that's going pretty well. Right now we have around 16 subscriptions that are currently active. Some of them are monthly, some of them are the biannual, and the others are the annual recurring subscriptions. So there's still a few users who don't prefer that recurring subscription model just because they're not used to it. So what I normally do is I tell them to just go ahead and purchase the recurring and then cancel right away. And so it kind of bumps up the churn rate a little artificially, but it allows them to be happy as well as purchase the software. But then there's also those users that really like the recurring subscription model. And so for those, we have around 16 active right now.
Awesome, man. Well, let's back out of that a little bit and just do kind of a brief introduction about you. Can you tell us about your background in building or running websites or online businesses? How'd you get into this, and then how'd you come up with the idea to start this site in particular?
Yeah, so I actually built my first e-commerce site at around like 14 years old. I saw an email that's, it just said, hey, you can build your own site. So I decided to do that, and I lost $300 making it, which was, a lot of money at the time. But then, you fast forward a couple of years, and so I continued to build websites, and I sort of sold them for like, anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000, made quite a bit of a profit, at least it was at that time. But with this site, it's a very different situation. So around 2 years ago, I was around 17, and, my dad left the family, and so we needed something to bring in an income quick, so I couldn't really rely on, website building and waiting for it to start getting in revenue and SEO and all of that. So I ended up getting a $40,000 loan from family and friends, and I ended up purchasing this site for around 11x, 12x multiple. And then I continued to operate it, and in just 8 months, I was able to get my entire $40,000 back on the website's purchase.
Cool. Okay, so you ran into some family issues, knew that you needed to get an income, and found an opportunity to do that through purchasing this site. Tell us about how the site primarily makes money, and tell me about the site overall.
Yeah, so the site primarily makes money right now through the software, the license purchases, and that's kind of the one method that I've been very consistent with just because that's the main method of the site's revenue. But in the past, I've also done two other methods, which is solo ads, and I'll also be going into that more, but it's basically you sort of send out these emails for other people's Forex offers and you get paid for it, and it's anywhere from $400 to $1,000 per email, and so it just sort of goes out to the list, and they see that offer and they go and check out the other person's offer. So I used to do that, which used to bring in quite a decent amount of revenue as well. And the third monetization method was affiliate marketing. So the Skype group that I'm part of, they're always launching new Forex products, so promoting those products to my email list allows me to also make pretty good CPA, $250 per sign up and stuff. So those are pretty good ways to monetize as well that I've done in the past.
Out of the $2,000 a month right now, how much of that is coming from affiliate? How much of it is coming from solo ads?
So right now, none of that is coming from affiliate or solo ads. I'm just doing license sales right now. And, if you sort of look into the profit loss statement, like there were times where the website was making $7,000, $6,000 in profit a month. So those were sort of the times where I was really focusing on all three, or at least two of the aspects that I mentioned above. But right now, the 2,000 is purely license purchases.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're young. You need to make an income for your family. Why this niche? Like, why Forex? Why did you get into this? You saw the site for sale. Was it just an opportunity thing? Did you not know much about Forex beforehand, or did you already understand the space?
Okay, so I actually just chose this entire site off numbers. I looked at what the revenue was, the profits, and, how long it would take for me to pay it off. I had really no idea what Forex was. The only market I knew existed was the stock market, so I actually didn't even know that there was such thing as a Forex market. So in retrospect, the reason I would have chosen if I knew what I know today is because it's easy to excel in this niche. Because in this niche, it's a lot of people have like these Forex products and stuff, but they don't provide even a decent amount of customer support. And so the reason I really like this niche is because if you just provide a bit of customer support, or just, answer emails daily, you sort of build that strong customer user relationship, and you end up getting a lot of customers that will stay and, become loyal customers. And so the second is because of the targeted market, because Forex typically targets more of wealthier individuals. It's either people that do this full time or that have this money set aside to, risk and trade. So, I can sell these licenses at higher prices, and, people are willing to put in this upfront money. So those are kind of the reasons I like this niche in retrospect. But in the beginning, I really just chose it purely based off numbers and what I thought it would take to pay it off.
Okay, it was a numbers opportunity purchase for you. Tell me a little bit about how this works. We talked a bit before the show. Maybe you can let our listeners know what the software does for people.
Yeah, so the software, what it does is essentially makes trades on behalf of the users. And so what the users first do is they usually put it on demo account where it's virtual money and not the actual money, and they kind of see how the software operates on behalf of their account. And they toggle with settings and they change things up. And so ultimately the purpose of it is to allow them to put it on their real account and make the money. So this software actually goes out and has a bunch of different algorithms in it that it goes out and purchases. It actually makes the purchase on behalf of the user in whatever currency they want to be in. And yeah, so it's kind of like an automated trading software.
Gotcha. So, there are some settings they can adjust and tweak. And for anyone listening to this that is completely wondering what the hell we're talking about here, Forex is foreign currency exchange. So if I have dollars, the dollar gets better, today, and I then trade that to Filipino pesos or yen or whatever, I'm going to make a little bit of money on the transaction because, the dollar's gotten better and whatever currency's gotten worse. I'm going to get more of that new currency. If that one then goes up, I make more money in the long haul because of currency fluctuation. So there's a whole industry around this thing. This software is a demo, right? So it lets me kind of see where the market is and use even play money to see if I'd made this investment, would I have been successful if I switched over the money from here to there and that kind of thing. And then I can take it out of demo mode and go live, and it'll actually help make those trades, those currency exchanges for me.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what a lot of the users do first. They put it on a demo account, and these demos are completely they're basically this real life results, except it's not real money. And so they do it for a couple of weeks, or most of them do it for at least 1 or 2 months, and then they're happy with the results. So they continue to purchase the software, and then they put it on their real accounts, and yeah, they go from there.
Cool. So anyone familiar with, stock markets, they have very similar things on that side of the house. So yeah, so I like it. That's pretty interesting. Let's talk a little bit about why you're selling the site. Why don't you just keep it, continue to grow it as is?
There's quite a few reasons I'm selling the site, and all of which have to do more with me than the site itself. So I'm actually working on a game with a few buddies of mine, and so it's kind of like a new type of text-based virtual reality game. And so for that, we're going to need quite a bit of capital to put into the game, for different software and hiring out different people. So my time is also occupied with that, but also that we need capital for that. So that's kind of one of the reasons. And I'm a college student, so I don't have all the time in the world either, and so other commitments such as my startup and stuff, so it's mainly a time commitment, and then on top of that the capital itself would help for the current startup I'm working on.
Gotcha. So you can fund your current startup, you're going to need the cash for that, Plus, as a college student, your time is already pretty tapped. I remember those days. So let's talk a little bit about it. The site was built in March 2013. Can you tell me about the trajectory of the business before you bought it, and then what happened after you bought it? Did it go up immediately? Did it go down? What was the story there?
Yeah, so the site was built in March 2013, so I guess at this point it's basically almost 2 years old. And so I purchased the site for $40,000, and in the first 8 months I paid it off. And, the reason for that was because at that time, of course I needed to make that return on my investment, so I was putting in all the time into that. And so within the first 8 months I paid it off, but then after that, the income started going a little bit down, and that wasn't because of the site itself, but only because I was getting into college, and then I was focused on other things, and because quite frankly it was already paid off, so I didn't have to worry so much. It was just sort of a smaller income stream that was coming in, which was all profits. So the trajectory went a little downward, but only because of those reasons. And, once it was paid off, I stopped focusing too much on it because I wasn't necessarily, everything coming in was just profits.
So you bought it and turned it around, started crushing it. You were doing a ton of work on it at the time because you needed that income stream. After you paid it off, you slacked off with it basically and were focused on other things. And, you saw the income decline, and you're expecting, rather than hang on to this thing right now where you're not putting much time into it, might as well give it to someone who can love it and build it back up rather than you leaving it as kind of a side project, right?
Exactly, yeah, because for me, I've seen the potential, and not only seen it, but I've sort of displayed it too with the 7,000 a month sales and, those higher numbers, and that can happen again. It just needs to have a consistent stream of time into it. Just like the 2-3 hours a day would bring it honestly back to the 6,000-7,000 range, because that's all I had time to do. I was in high school at the time, so that's all I was able to put in, but that's what got it there.
So tell me what you did with the site that just didn't work. Did you make any changes to this and you're just like, oh, that didn't help me?
Well, I made quite a few changes to the site. The only one I would say was I tried to create a new sales page. I'm not really a graphic designer or anything, but I tried to have someone create a new sales page for it. And this was a few months ago, and so that didn't work out well, and so I lost $200 on that. But then I kind of talked to one of the people in the Forex group, and I was like, hey, how do you guys do this? And so they kind of helped me, and so we have a much better sales page now. But really, that's the only one. Everything else from, updating the site's design to adding that recurring subscription and, adding lifetime licenses, all of that's been really great because it's all helped the website and, brought in more revenue, made things more consistent type deal.
So you didn't start with the recurring, you didn't start with the lifetime option. Those are things you added after the fact, after kind of testing and talking to other people in your mastermind?
Exactly, yeah. So initially all I was worried about was continuing the process those first 8 months after I purchased the site because, I didn't want to take any risks and, try something new and it doesn't work out. So I was just beating it down with the licenses, with the solo ads, the affiliates. I was just worried about getting that return. But then once I got my return, I was like, hey, maybe I should start testing things, see how that works. And, everything did pretty well except that sales page thing I just mentioned. So exactly.
What worked the best? What was you can take from this learning experience and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to apply that to future sites, or, for this particular industry, this thing just absolutely crushed it?
I think it was the lifetime licenses just because they bring in such a high, income stream because they're around $1,200 to $1,300 for one license. And so those really help. And the reason they do really well in this industry, and what I did with those was I sort of bundled it up. I offered the users gold membership is what I called it. And that was basically they would receive, very prompt replies to their email. If they ever need Skype chat support, I would help them. And so those little things. And so that really that enticed people to purchase the lifetime license, even though it was significantly more expensive than the second most expensive option, which was the annual. So that would be something I would, definitely implement in the future too, just because, if you promise and you fulfill your promise on these little things like super fast customer support replies and, live chat support and stuff like that, it's enough for people to purchase, spend even $1,000 more on these licenses.
Yeah, so the lifetime license is interesting. So how many people do you have on the lifetime license? Because any new buyer that's going to take this over will have to continue to support those lifetime licenses, correct?
Right, so there's around 6 or 7 of those in total. The great thing about the lifetime licenses is that a lot of these people, the reason they do purchase it is, they know what they're doing, so they'll need support and stuff the first month or so, but they're pretty good at this whole Forex thing, which is why they spend so much money on these licenses. So it's not like they're an ongoing burden or anything. Like the first few that purchased lifetime licenses, I never heard from them again, and it's not like they ever emailed to complain either. They didn't like the software or anything, but most of these people are pretty experienced in this niche, and so they usually do their own thing, and it's not much to worry about. But to answer your question, it's around 6 or 7.
Yeah, I love the pure profit play of this thing. I mean, yeah, you get a lifetime license, and that is all money in the bank. Let's talk a little bit about traffic and earnings. Let's get into that. So tell me, what's the breakdown in terms of traffic? Is it organic, referral, direct, social? Where's the traffic coming from?
Yeah, so most of the traffic is through the email traffic exchange, through that Forex Skype group. So I would say 70% comes from there, 70 to 75%. Around 10% comes in, or 10 to 15% organically, just from people who've heard of it or if coming back to the website. And then 5% is organically through social media. So I don't think I've ever paid more than $20. I paid $20 once to promote this on Facebook, but every other time it's been organic. So I haven't really utilized that medium as well either, the Facebook, Twitter medium. There's a few fans on the Facebook page, but that's something also that the new buyer can emphasize on. But I would say like around 5 to 10% through social media.
Would you consider yourself like a paid traffic expert? Do you deal with paid traffic a lot in other businesses or anything, or is that something that's unfamiliar to you?
Yeah, I've done a bit of paid traffic. I used to do it with a past e-commerce site of mine. But with this site, I've actually not done much paid traffic at all, only because there's easy access to free traffic. So I didn't see any reason to go for the paid traffic, except that it could ultimately boost up the amount of people that come through Google and stuff. But I have a bit of experience with paid traffic. I just have never implemented it on this site because of, the time, but also because there was already so much free traffic readily available, but I didn't see the reason to do it.
So, one of the concerns as a buyer, if I'm looking at this, that traffic exchange, so 70, 80% of that traffic comes from basically your mastermind. Like, how is a new buyer going to be able to capitalize on the traffic? What if they turn it off?
Well, the people in that group, it's around 300 people, and so the way this works is you sort of send your offer over to their email list, and they send their offer to your email list. So this group has been here for, I think, 4 to 5 years. I've seen it myself for the past year and a half, a little more than that. So it's not like it's one person or one, mastermind controlling the whole thing. It's just a group of people in this very same niche, which really builds a nice sense of community as well. But, that's free traffic. But there's always going to be alternatives. But I seriously doubt it's going to be going anywhere just because of the way it's set up.
Gotcha. I like the site in terms of paid traffic. I think there's some opportunity there for someone that wants to get in there and test it out. And if they don't, obviously they can continue to earn from the organic and the traffic exchange. Tell me about the content on the site. How much content is currently on the site? Is any content need to be added to the site to maintain it? Where's that at?
Right, so there's actually very little to almost no blog content or anything like that. I've added frequently asked questions page and the home page, the text on that, and of course the terms and conditions, all of that stuff. But other than that, there's no other content on this page. It's not, the traffic doesn't come through SEO organically or anything, as in through search engines. So there's no need to add the content to sustain the current profits. But of course, if the user wanted to, do SEO on the site, it would work wonderfully. But at this point, there's no new content needed to be added, and there's not much on there right now either, except for the ones I mentioned.
Gotcha. Can you talk to me a little bit about the earnings? I was looking at kind of the stability of the earnings, and it seems up and down in terms of September. The earnings in October were really low this last year, and then it shot up for November and earned a ton. So can you kind of explain what was the deal there?
Yeah, so I think there were a few months where it was extremely low, close to even zero, and I think those were around 2 months. And the first month, it was because we were doing a full website redesign. That was right after the $40,000 had been paid off, and I was like, well, this website looks ugly, I need to redesign it. And so it wasn't even just design, it was implementing new PayPal structure and then sort of automating the software and whatnot. And then this past September, I think that was the one where I was creating the and developer had started working on the recurring subscription, because that's not just on the side of PayPal where you set up a recurring subscription, but it is also with the software where the software needs to communicate with PayPal. So that took a bit of time to sort of create and stuff. So those 2 times were probably why it was down, because first it was totally closed for buyers to even purchase, and then in this past September I did like 0 traffic exchanges because I was moving into college, and then B, it was because of that automated recurring subscription.
Let me ask you, Ahmed, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, I'm a potential buyer, right? I'm thinking, oh my God, first off, I don't know Forex. Second, I'm not a developer, so I can't be making improvements and changes to the software. You didn't know Forex before this, and you're not a developer, right?
Right, exactly. I know it sounds like super techy and all of that on the front end, but the development was done completely by someone else, and of course I would be introducing the developer to the new buyer as well. But, what I told him to do was in plain English terms. I was like, hey, I need to create this recurring subscription. I don't know what needs to be done or what has to happen, but I need you to do it. And that's what he did. And in terms of Forex, I had no idea what Forex was. I came in and I was a little scared at first too, honestly, because, it seems like a complicated market and, it's like stock, Forex, all this stuff, like financial markets. At the end of the day, it's really, especially with customer support, it's the same questions over and over again. I mean, if you go on the frequently asked questions page and you look at the emails that are sent, 90% of those are already answered on that frequently asked questions page. So most of the people, the good part is most of the people that buy the software know what they're doing. That's why they buy it. And so it's not like they're expecting you to provide like financial advice or anything of that sort.
Gotcha. So you're not targeting people that are brand new to Forex or trying to figure it out. These are people that are already in it generally and are looking for another tool that can help them, purchase or test through it or give modeling for them to make some more money. Let's talk about opportunities for this. If, I'm a buyer, I'm listening to this show, and I want to hear from your perspective, what would be like the least risky path to growth that I might be able to focus on?
Right. So for the least risky, I would say to focus on the 3 things, from above. They would be the license purchases, the solo ads, and the affiliates. And if you really just get into these 3 components of the site, you can do really well with this site. And the reason these are the least risky is because I've done it and I've had quite a bit of success with these 3 avenues of revenue. So I would suggest that. And I mean, there's quite a few other methods that I would suggest implementing that I haven't personally tried.
What would you do if I want to be really aggressive? I want to make some serious changes to the site and 2x or 3x the site in 12 to 24 months. Like, what changes would I need to test through? Like, what things could I do?
Okay. Yeah, so first I would say to, of course, focus on those 3 things because those are the core revenue models. And then I would get in touch with brokers and get contracts with them to refer clients and that's really easy to do. It's a lot easier than it sounds. All you do is you call up one of the brokers and you say, hey, everyone that uses my software, I'm going to refer you to them because everyone that uses the software needs a broker. And so you just tell them, hey, I'm going to refer all my clients over to you and 2 others. And every client that comes to you that signs up with you and makes a deposit, you pay me my $250 sign-up bonus. So that would be one thing. And, that I know people that are doing that with their sites, and it works really well because you get a pretty sweet cut for each one of your user that signs up with them, regardless of whether they purchase your license or not. And the other thing I was doing is more aggressive sales. I've done a few promotions and sales with this, and they work out really well because there's quite a few people that are borderline ready to purchase, but they just need a little push, like a 5-10% off the license. And doing these sales really gets them to come and purchase that. And after all, it's 100% profit. So even doing like a 50% off sale, which I've never done before, but even dramatically decreasing the price, it's still profits. And, I did that once. I did a 30% off sale on Black Friday, and I got a bunch of people that came in and purchased licenses, people that hadn't even, expressed any interest whatsoever in purchasing the license before came, and they started purchasing it. And so the sales really help people that are borderline and that don't even want to come and do that, and the contracts with brokers and stuff would really help. I think those are pretty low risk methods as well to sort of growing this site.
What do you do? I'm always curious about this with software, but what do you do to protect people from just downloading it for free from torrents or whatever?
Well, personally, I haven't really done much to implement that, and the reason being is because I'm the only one with access to the key, and without the key, the software can't do anything. And so every key that's generated The trial keys are just generated and sent out. I don't keep a record of those only because they expire themselves in like 7 days. But in terms of like the long-term keys, like the monthly recurring keys or the annual keys, the lifetime keys, those are all kept in a database that I have access to. So if I ever feel like, there was a key that was created, but it wasn't, that I didn't create it or somehow someone got access to it, I can just go in there and delete it myself or suspend it or get in touch with the person. So the software itself is, you can't use it without the activation key, and, you only have activation key from the back end of the software.
Cool. So this isn't like a third-party tool or service that you're using to protect the license keys. This is all built into your system?
Yeah, exactly. So it's all, and the developer did a really good job of making sure that was well protected too. I paid quite a bit extra to make sure that I had all of this access in the back end just to prevent anyone from, generating a lifetime key and distributing it or something. So every key that's created, I see it on the back end and I have access to deleting it or suspending it type deal.
God, it might be worth it just to buy this site to get a good developer. All right, man. So tell me a little bit about the risk for the site. Like, what are the what keeps you up at night? What gets you worried that as an owner, if you were to keep the site, what would you want to change to get away from that risk?
Especially in the beginning, what was hard for me to accept is that people make and lose money all the time in this market. And so the customers won't always be happy. And that's not because of the software per se, but because of the market, something they're doing. And so that was something that really bothered me in the beginning, because if someone messaged me and told me, hey, I lost money because of your software, I kind of took it personally. I was like, well, why am I selling this thing if it's because of me they're losing money? But the truth is it's the market, and it's impossible to create any software in any market, trading market, that will, bring in 100% profits. So there will always be losses because of the way the market fluctuates. So that was something that I always had a hard time, sort of understanding. And when I first bought the site, I used to do it personally, but over the months I sort of just learned how to handle the situation much better. I'll tell the buyers, okay, well, you lost this money, or you're mad because, even you used it on a demo account and it didn't do well, but you paid for a license. So what I do is I just sort of suggest them, like, with the different settings, and I kind of learned these settings as well over time, and I'd be happy to explain to them as well, to the new buyer. But it's just, usually you can just tell the user to, hey, what are you doing? How are you setting up the software? And usually it's a problem with the way they're setting it up, and more often than not, they're happy to sort of go in and, take your advice and change things up. And one thing that actually really kept me up at night was with the few lifetime licenses that sold, because they're virtual goods, that makes it a bit of a problem. And so I lost a bit of money with one of the lifetime licenses because someone filed a case on PayPal, and so I lost a bit of money because I had no proof of delivery. And so with that, what I would suggest doing, and what I started doing, and it's worked beautifully, is, for $5-6 out of the $1,300 you make, you sort of just print out the key on a paper that says thank you, and I have that template as well, and you just put the key on there, and the user already receives the key via email, but you also ship that key to the email address.
Yeah, physical good. Yeah,
exactly. And you put like a signature confirmation on it. So it charges like $8, but it gives you insurance over like $1,300. So that was one thing that really kept me up at night. Every time someone bought a lifetime license, I was both like leaping with joy, but also scared out of my mind. But after I did that, I think that, I've never had a problem with it since then, just because of physical key ships to their address, and it shows that they signed off for it.
And you're not selling just a ton of these lifetime licenses, so a big one like that comes in and you're like happy, and at the same time going, please don't charge back on me. Please don't charge back on me. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the work required. Now, you're talking about, some of them emailing you, having questions. I know that 90% of the questions that come in are pretty standardized. You've already answered them in kind of frequently asked questions, and the new buyer will have access to those. But how many emails are we talking about per week? How much support are you offering for this?
Yeah, so I have on a daily basis, like you said, I just answer support emails, which I would say is anywhere from 7 emails to 10 emails a day. And these aren't lengthy emails. A lot of them, more like half of them are just, hey, can you give me a trial key? And so, that takes 15 seconds to generate from the software. So I send them that 7-day trial key, often just because they didn't check their spam inbox or they want that 2 extra days on it. And so I would say anywhere from, 7 to 10 emails, including the trial key ones per day. And that takes me around anywhere from 20 minutes, and sometimes it does take up to like 35, 40 minutes, just depending on the emails, but it never takes me more than 40 minutes to answer them. And on the weekends, I set up the traffic exchanges for the upcoming week, I like to be planned out in advance, so I sometimes do it for the upcoming 2 to 3 weeks. And so I just put it on my calendar that I have a traffic exchange with this person. And then you just basically send over your email template, you get theirs, and you load it into Aweber. So that's kind of just that's like an hour on the weekends to set up the weekly traffic exchanges and around 30 minutes a day to answer the emails.
How much work needs to be done in terms of like updating the software? Are there regular updates that need to be done? Like who takes care of that? How much does it cost? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so the software is actually, the first time I ever updated it was this past, when I did the recurring subscription part. And so in that, the software algorithm, nothing changed, only the fact that it was able to do these recurring subscriptions and communicate with PayPal and whatnot. But so in actuality, I've never done a software update on the actual software where the components or the key, or the trading strategy or anything changes. It's just been this one last time, which was around $200, but that was just to create the recurring subscription. So, I've never done a software update, like I said, with the strategy, and you don't need to as well to maintain the site or maintain the profits. It could definitely be done if the buyer wanted to, but I've never had to do it myself in the past a year and a half.
Ahmed, what skill sets might the perfect buyer for this have? I'm trying to envision it myself. I'm thinking maybe someone with quite a bit of Forex experience, right? This may even be like a strategic purchase for someone that's already in the Forex niche. Maybe they've got some paid traffic experience, or they've done some solo ads or ad exchanges, like they're in that kind of space and they're good at it. They would be a perfect buyer. What's the perfect buyer from your perspective, and then also kind of the minimums in terms of skill sets?
Yeah, so I guess all the stuff you listed, if that's what the buyer would have, then, they would be a much more suited buyer than I was when I bought the site, because I had none of that. But honestly, it would just be the ability to quickly respond to emails. And when I say quickly, once every 24 hours at least, and just the ability to sort of stay on and learn all of these things, because it's a bit to learn in the beginning, but it's nothing that's impossible. It's not like it's too much, but there's a bit of a learning curve initially, but more of just answering emails and those skill sets, just the communication skill sets, and being able to sort of communicate with me during the training process and stuff, and so that I can sort of guide them through everything. And I would say fast typing might help to answer emails.
Gotcha. So let's cover that first just a bit. How much support are you offering a potential buyer? Someone wants to buy the site, but they're a little unsure as to, how much training you're going to provide, make sure they're able to get up to speed. How much are you offering?
Yeah, so I'm offering the 5-hour Skype phone call, which will be anywhere from, 5 to 6 hours of just sort of answering questions, doing the full-on training. And if more is necessary, of course, I'd be happy to offer that with getting this training going and setting it up. And then after that, I'm guaranteed on Skype for them for the next 30 days. But quite frankly, I'm on Skype daily, so I have no problem, offering the buyer Skype chat support for even months after. And the reason I say that is because I know the person that sold me the site, he offered me live chat support for the next, 3-4 months, and that was just questions I had, small questions here and there about the site. So I would be happy to do that. I probably couldn't offer, phone voice call support every day or anything because, I have my own schedule. But with live chat, I'm almost always available either through my phone or on the computer. So I would be happy to just continue and, build more than just a buyer-seller relationship. I would like to, get to know the person, be able to help them succeed with the site, maybe even do some future Forex sites or something together.
Cool. Okay. And one of the concerns buyers have is they want to make sure that if they buy this site, the day after, you're not competing site. So would you be willing to commit to a non-compete in the Forex niche for, a couple of years? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
With this website, as of now, I do own another site in the niche, which isn't in any way of a competitor because it just offers a free PDF guide that I wrote on Forex, and it's actually operating at a loss of a few dollars per year on that. But the reason I don't think I would be willing to do that is because, firstly, the way this industry sort of works with these Forex group buyers is that the other owners in this market, or me myself if I was to get another software, they don't actually hinder the performance of anyone else in the niche. And this kind of goes back into that community group of the Forex, the people with their Forex products. Because, logically speaking, if there are more people in this niche, there are more people looking to purchase solo ads, there are more people offering their affiliate products and stuff. So there's more opportunities the more people that are in this market. Now, in terms of someone else selling a better software license, like I sort of mentioned earlier, most people don't take the approach I did of turning this into something that's more longer lasting. A lot of what happens in this market is people launch these products, they market the heck out of them for a month, and then they just sort of let them go. But the way I've taken this approach, it's more of building that customer support relationship, which is why I emphasize so much personally on customer support, because that's what really sets this website apart. So that's kind of the reason I wouldn't be willing to sign a non-compete. So I can, not only work with the buyer, but also because it doesn't hinder in any way the performance of this site. In fact, it, allows more avenues of revenue for the buyer.
So you'd want the option to stay in the Forex niche. Would you at least do this, be willing to not sell this exact piece of software?
Oh, yeah, of course. So with this website comes exclusivity to the software. So right now I'm the only one that sells the software, and then they would be the only ones that would sell it as well. So I wouldn't be selling it. Nobody else in the world would be selling this software except for them.
Now, Ahmed, obviously, 100% cash upfront offers, is best from your perspective. But are you open to splits or earnouts? So maybe something where you get 70% up front and, you do the training and then they get 30% after training in 30, 60 days. So they do 60% up front and 40% over the next 4 to 6 months based on hitting certain goals. Are you open to something like that?
Yes, I would prefer the entire payment, of course, up front, but I would be probably willing to do the 80% up front and then 20% once everything's transferred, once training is done, probably within 15 to 30 days. The reason I don't want to do any less than that up front or the 4-month deal is because, like I sort of said earlier, that this capital is going to be going toward my current startup, and we would like to have the capital readily accessible to inject into the game and the startup itself, and so that's kind of the reason why.
All right, man, let's do a quick wrap up here. The niche is software sales in the financial Forex niche. The site was built in March 2013. The monetization is software license sales, and you also have a small recurring piece that you added recently in February. The net profit is just under $2,000 a month, $19.59 What's your best pitch within 30 seconds on why someone should purchase a site from you?
Yeah, so there's just a huge potential in this niche, and especially in this website. I've not had the time personally to go through all these avenues, but they could really bring in a steady revenue and allow the website to skyrocket, quite frankly. And the other thing is so many other sites in this niche have neglected customer support, so providing just a decent amount of customer support will really bond the users with the software and the website itself, because they're not used to seeing that. And the recurring subscription's also doing pretty well, and I think so keeping that implemented will definitely do the new buyer good. And above all, you get a great sense of community and supporting entrepreneurs in the Skype Forex niche, the group that I'll be introducing them to. And it's honestly a booming industry with not as much work required as other websites, but you also have, people that are willing to spend money and purchase these software. So it's a beautiful target market too.
Awesome, man. Well, for anyone listening to this, if you're on YouTube or elsewhere, there will be a link to this listing in the notes so you can find out more information. If you're on the listing page itself, look in the upper right-hand corner. If you pay the refundable deposit for this, we'll give you all the information, much more access so you can do all of your due diligence and make sure that this purchase is the right one for you.